Good day. Thank you for joining me for another Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast, episode 20. A special shout out and thank you to all the mothers out there. I'm starting with two tributes by moms rather than simply for moms. Both of them, as you will see, show the fighting and fine spirit of many Jamaican women. The first is from a mother of 8. She tells her own struggle to get food for her children and her determination that they would be the best. And then the other is a moving tribute by a woman whose only child was slaughtered by the man she married. But let's start with Nadine Grant of St. Anne, single mother of 8.
The name is Nadine Grant. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I am here just to give a simple synopsis of what I went through as a single mother. I was financially unstable, still is, but I went far and beyond, to get food. Food was a really challenge for my children, and going to school, was to take on jobs. I take on a job for one day tutoring a child. I went to some places to tutor children just to get a $3,000 to feed my kids. We didn't know where our next meal was coming from, but that did not deter me. I still push out and I give God all the glory because God is the center of it all. Yes, a few friends came on board. I had a few family that really, chip in, but it was God and my determination that my children is going to succeed. They're going to have a good education. They are going to, feed properly, even though we are still struggling financial wise. But I went out far and beyond just to make ends meet. Yes, we suffer. We went through hard time. We went through depression. We went through suicidal thoughts. Just a lot of things, but that didn't deter us. We pressed through, and here we are today. And I salute my children. I salute myself too, because if it had not been for the Lord, I don't know what would have happened to us.
That's Nadine Grant. On April 7, 2011, just over 11 years ago, a policeman led a brutal attack on the family of his wife. Joan Brown Llewellyn had moved out as her abusive husband, Corporal Wayne Llewellyn, had demanded. She moved from the matrimonial home in Manchester to her parents' abode in Three Hills, St. Mary. But early that April 7 morning, Corporal Llewellyn journeyed all the way to St. Mary and engaged in a terrible barbaric orgy of violence that shocked Jamaica. He slaughtered his wife's mother, 79-year-old Rachel Brown, his wife's father, 73-year-old Valdy Brown, his wife's brother, Fitzroy Townsend, and his wife's only daughter, his stepchild, 7-year-old Georgian Flynn. He shot all of them dead, and also shot his wife, Joan, and left her for dead before he emptied the gun on himself. The 5 deaths left some Jamaicans stunned for days at a time. But Joan Brown wasn't dead. Joan Brown isn't dead. Joan Brown was badly wounded in that house of death. Many felt she would never survive. The former member of the Ocho Seventh-day Adventist Church and Maranatha Church, Manchester, was flown to the US, where medical care has helped to make her useful to herself. Her faith in God has made her cheerful, forgiving, smiling, and today, Mother's Day, missing her mother and her daughter. So here's a part of my interview with Joan Brown, who also calls herself Jobeth.
I'm paralyzed from my breast down.
Okay.
So I'm a quadriplegic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I use my spirituality to strengthen my physical man. Firstly, I must say my mom, Rachel Brown, taught me how prayer is important in a person's life. So her philosophy was pray about everything, worry about nothing. So I've used that as a stepping stone and as a lever to help to build me up in my Christian life. Because going through all this, I've never taken an antidepressant. I've only known prayer as my antidepressant. So I pray about everything and worry about nothing. My philosophy in life is whatever I can change, I work with it or work around it. But I always keep going with God by my side.
Wonderful.
So I'll overcome everything.
Now tell us a little bit now about how you feel on for this Mother's Day and the words, how you feel about your daughter, the words you would say to people who have suffered loss.
Before the incident in February, just for her birthday, my daughter Georgia said to me, she said, Mom, you know, I'm ready to go home to God. So I said, what are you talking about? She said, Mom, God sent me to make everyone happy, to uplift people and just to help out and put a smile on everybody's face. And I've fulfilled what God has sent me to do. So I'm ready to go. So having her said that, it hurts to know that she's not here, but it helps me to know that she's at peace. And that says a lot for my mom and my daughter. Mm-hmm. So I would say to persons, forgiveness is what helps to heal a person. So use forgiveness to love yourself and love the person who hurt you. It's not easy, but it's the best thing for you. Mm-hmm. I have forgiven and I have found peace within myself. In this time, I can always remember Mom, to say, I love you, Mom. And I live with the great memories of them. The last word my daughter, my only child, said to me, I love you, Mom, and I will always love you. So that helps me today, being Mother's Day, to just remember them in a peaceful and a loving way, the good times we shared, praying and singing together.
That was Joan Brown. Mothers, if you think you have had it really hard, and you might indeed have had huge challenges, think again. Think again. Happy Mother's Day. And now to the newspapers. Let's start with the Sunday Gleaner. Now the Sunday Gleaner carries on the theme of Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day shouts, and it says, Mama Becca, the blessing that keeps on giving. This is the story of the ups and downs, the hardships and triumphs of Miss Becca, Rebecca Hale, who gave birth to 5 and mothered many more, and was a natural grandmother of 12, and many, many more called her grandma. The story of her travail and joy is told by Erica Virtue, and it gives a sense really of the tough times that so many face in Jamaica. It's a story worth reading. The Sunday Gleaner also remembers the Walters family and the pain they feel at the loss on Mother's Day of the matriarch of the family, Beryl Walters, who was washed away nearly 3 weeks ago. Now the entertainment section of the Gleaner comes up with a novel and interesting way of celebrating mothers. Now it features some of the women who have made outstanding contributions to music and culture. No surprises here that Rita Marley and Olivia Babsy Grange are among them, but so too is Sister Ignatius of Alpha. A good read here too. Now the main story in the Sunday Gleaner, its main investigation is Sun, Sea, Sand, Forsaken. It's an interesting story about how the assets of Jamaica, in particular the beaches of Jamaica, are neglected, run down, with few amenities and few support structures that could make us enjoy them. Now, a very important part of this story, I find, is a statement given to Laverne Barrett, who investigates. And here it is. The state-owned Urban Development Corporation, the UDC, said it needed more time to respond to the Sunday Gleaner's questions about the number of beaches it owns, how many have been divested or leased, and whether lease arrangements guarantee the public access to the beaches at minimal cost. Can you believe that? The UDC, which is put in charge of these beaches, says it needs more time to tell you how many of them are leased, whether they are leased with particular conditions to afford affordability, to allow affordability. Can you believe that? Shame on the UDC. Shame on them and their lack of accountability. Now to the Sunday Observer. It leads with a story, accused rapist family in fear. So it's about the threats being faced by the family of Davian Bryan, the accused rapist, who is in police custody now. And then the Observer also goes to another story of similar vein. A man, Chieftain Campbell, going about his business in Mandeville, just days before he was to be married. He is set upon by a mob and killed. A mob instigated by somebody who said thief and robber and bawled out and identified this man as a thief and the robber. Now, in this story by Casey Williams, here is the irony on top of the tragedy. Chieftain Campbell had nothing to do with any robbery. He, in fact, was a victim. And the robber called out, identifying him as the robber. Awful. Then also in the story of great mention and merit is a series that children's voices matter. Very important, especially in Child Month. The story for me that matters though is Trick or Treat. What a lovely story of 3 sisters, each of whom gave birth in the month of March to 3 girls. What a fabulous story. Now, the girls are, so the siblings are Heather Hewitt McNeil, 34, Crystal Hewitt, she's 31, Vanessa Hewitt, she's 27. They all gave birth, these 3 sisters, in March. It's a warm pink story on Mother's Day. This week, video footage emerged of 2 instances of Jamaica Defence Force soldiers on using a rifle to hit residents of Denham Town, and also soldiers shoving and kicking a woman. The videos have rightly drawn the ire of many Jamaicans and condemnation of yet other instances of the abuse of Jamaican citizens by members of the security forces. Now, I find the incidents repugnant and awful. They are under investigation by the very competent INDICOM and by the JTF itself. Frankly speaking, it's also true that except for the specific points of abuse in the few seconds of each video shown, we don't know what particularly sparked the attacks. What we do know is that these situations of people confronting the security forces who are carrying out their lawful duties, of people telling them the most vile and profane words and even threatening them with violence, is now too commonplace. The soldiers are in Denham Town as they are in another 6 communities across Jamaica because the levels of lawlessness and violence required extraordinary measures, including putting soldiers on the streets to complement the numbers of police. These are, frankly speaking, communities where the frequency of violence, including murder, in the community is greater than in some countries larger than Jamaica. Frankly speaking, I am on the side of law and order. It is the dirty politics, the corruption, the bad governance that have brought us to this point in Jamaica. But we are here, and frankly speaking, we do have agencies that help to defend our people against excesses by the security forces. People aggrieved can go to Indicom, they can go to the public defender, and Jamaicans for Justice, among other NGOs, frankly speaking. It is time we learn that taking on the security forces on the ground as they do their duty is not going to be of benefit to anyone. Here is Crosstalk with Desmond Richards, journalist and businessman.
How many of us saw JDF soldiers gun whipping civilians, including a pregnant woman in West Kingston last week? The Jamaica Defence Force was formed shortly after Jamaica became independent in 1962. So it's a good time for us to evaluate its human rights records and how it has been used by the state in its fight against crime. Now, let us be very clear, especially some members for those members of the media and some members of the public. Some members of the Jamaica Defence Force are just as corrupt, brutal, and very disrespectful to members when dealing with Jamaican people, black Jamaican people. Now, after 60 years of mismanagement, mismanaging our affairs, the Jamaican state has been using the Jamaica Defence Force to fight crime. And it has not worked, and it will never work. The state agents are selling gun licenses. Politicians have built up criminal garrisons over the years. And what they have done, they have unleashed trained killers to fight crime. This can't work. The records are there for us to see. It just can't work. How can we forget the 1976 state of emergency when soldiers were unleashed on the nation? Innocent detentions, beatings, killings. Do we forget Keith Clark? Shot and killed in his bedroom in front of his wife and children. And do we forget the Green Bay massacre? Guto Thompson and four others from Central Kingston were recruited, taken to Green Bay and slaughtered. And since 2020, we have had numerous incidents of soldiers abusing citizens' rights, shooting them and beating them. And now, what we are looking at, we have in front of us now soldiers trying to abort babies with their feet. This can't work.
That's Desmond Richards, journalist and businessman. That's it for this week's Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Please continue to share and comment. And if you haven't yet done so, please subscribe to the YouTube channel.